Bitcoin trades back down to the $60,000 region, and it appears that history might just be repeating itself from exactly about 1 year ago. And that is the focus of today's video. And I just want to spend a little bit of time actually explaining my intent for today's video, because it is one of those times in the market where things are actually still generally quiet. When I look at my YouTube metrics and in all the social medias, you know, things are still more or less under wraps. Like, we haven't really seen any like super crazy explosion in terms of like popularity or anything like that. And so I want to be speaking directly to like the full-on TA nerds here, because I do believe that this is one of the times where I can perhaps provide hopefully a lot of value. So in today's video, we're going to be going over basically this setup that is very, very similar to about a year ago. And what I'm talking about is going to be first based off of the hash rate indicator right here. So if you're not familiar with this indicator, basically it prints capitulation signals and buy signals. What we're interested in are these blue buy signals. And anytime that Bitcoin has printed them, which there have been 19 in the full history of Bitcoin, those have provided a major base for Bitcoin, meaning that in 16 out of those 19 past iterations, the prior trend low was the low before never getting tested ever again. Or, I mean, you know, might be tested again, but never closed below ever again on any sort of higher term time frame. So I want to bring you back to the last example that we saw of this, which was back in August of 2023, like quite literally 1 year ago, or about a week and a year ago, as we did see this blue buy signal printed right here on this red vertical bar. Now, the interpretation of this is that the prior trend low, which is represented by this circle right here, should be the low before never closing below it ever again. Again, 16 out of 19 times. So very high probability, I think a little bit above 84%. Not a certainty. And we have obviously seen sometimes where that did not hold true, and it did lead to humongous dumps. So of course that is a possibility, but it does give us also an interpretation on the other side. If we do see this fail, we're looking at, I mean, we're probably looking at like a significantly nasty pullback, crash, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I mean, maybe that is like going alongside of an actual war starting and in World War III getting underway. But until that happens, it does look like Bitcoin is presenting itself with a similar opportunity as to right here. You can see after that blue buy signal did print, Bitcoin did come back down about a month later, actually after that, and retested almost exactly to the T where that closing price was. In fact, this was actually still on a higher low. It was about $30 higher if I were to highlight this area right here. But it did not close below, most importantly. So the reason why I'm bringing this up right now is because we can see that this blue buy signal has already populated itself. And the prior trend low would be this red circle right here, which is officially 55,891.87 cents on the Bitcoin index. We pointed this out when this fired off a couple weeks ago, and it was providing the overall analysis that, hey, the lows are likely in, but it doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't come back down to around that region and retest around it, similar to what we saw about a year ago right here. And that seems to be what's happening on this current pullback as of right now. So again, that is technically just a shade below $56,000, meaning that Bitcoin could theoretically come all the way back down around there and still maintain that overall long-term posturing, which does provide a nice base and likely the next major opportunity. And I'll just speak directly towards what I mean, you can figure out what the fuck I'm doing during this, right? And I want to be a little bit more transparent on this particular video, just because, like I said, there's not many people watching right now, and you know, I feel like this is one of those important things, not because it's guaranteed, but because it provides a major edge. So in this case, the real skill is judging how deep is this retracement likely to get. Well, with the way that CME did close on the weekly here, we have a clear and obvious, continuation of this downtrend, which is actually probably the most concerning thing for me as of right now, as we do see high, low, lower high, lower low, and this would be yet again another lower high. But a few things are still kind of like in the background as, I guess, positive if you have a more, long-term view of this. So while this did close as a weekly bearish engulfing, it even, and of course closing below the last week's low on an obvious reversal, we do see that there is a nice gap just below 60,000 bucks. If we go down here to the daily, we can kind of zero in on it between about 59 to just under 60,000 bucks. So I do suspect that Bitcoin's likely to test down around there. Gaps typically do get filled. Not always, they don't have to, but in this case, it looks like, that would be kind of a logical area to be looking at as of this moment based off of that weekly closure. Not only that, but when we put on our drawing tools right here, and actually these LARP, funnily enough, I drew out these LARP lines when the hash ribbons indicator printed over here. It looks like they're actually, funnily enough, these LARP lines tend to work out often, which is kind of sad or good. I don't know. Depends on your disposition. But in this case, where is one of our major fibs on this retracement? Well, right now we actually have seen the 50% level tested at 62,300 on CME. So, a little bit of a short-term bounce right there is what we saw yesterday. But the 618 level, the golden pocket, is pretty much right at the edge of that gap. So that would be the sort of next major area of interest from that perspective. So we have CME gap, we have the fib retracement, and I believe, yes, if we go over here to the weekly HPDR, we can see that the bottom end of the 38.2 level after the rejection from the median is where? 59,400. So kind of within that same pocket. Obviously, this number might change around a little bit when we get the new weekly open, but we see many things coming around the same area from completely different angles, which is usually good confluence. So while I do suspect that Bitcoin has not put in the low just yet, it's probably close, and the area of major opportunities would be somewhere right around here. Could it theoretically come a little bit lower towards that official low right here on the hash ribbons, or based off of the hash ribbons? Sure, yeah, but there is a major area of interest above that before that level is hit. So I would be cognizant of that, and this really offers up about a $4,000 range of likely opportunity. It's $4,000 is a massive range, obviously, but this is Bitcoin after all, and we are talking about more of a long-term setup. So in this case, as far as what I'm doing, I'll be looking to put in some more long-term investments somewhere down around there. Again, not because it's 100% guaranteed, but because I do like the probabilistic edge. And of course, if it does fail, there's a very obvious failure point. As with any strategy, there needs to be some sort of objective, identifiable area in which it falls apart. And in this case, very clearly below this last low here, you can expect much more to the downside, similar to what we've seen the other times that Bitcoin has violated this principle, which we did see actually over here in 2022. Bitcoin did trade lower than that one by a good margin, actually, about 25%. This one over here, obviously, this one was a tremendous failure, as once Bitcoin did violate it about a year later. Actually, this one did take a while to play out, but once it did violate it, that was a 50% downside move. And then, of course, the time that we had before that was actually preceding the coronavirus. So if it does fail, then there's a trade on the other side as well, or at least a protective trade on the other side, because things probably do fall apart a lot more. And like I said, does that correlate with like a World War III type event? I don't know, maybe. At the end of the day, show me the charts and I'll tell you the news. It looks like the market might be posturing for that, but hey, here's some other things to be considerate of while Bitcoin does kind of put in these lulls around the low, which I would go over here to the Dixie chart, which we pointed out a couple weeks ago as likely reversing. This one is reversing. We're not only seeing a monthly lower high on low volatility, but we're also going to see monthly momentum turn to the downside at the end of this month. Obviously, it's a long month left to go, but 104.68 is the current pivot, which is very far away from where price action currently is. And I do expect that this will come down closer to that 101 and a half region that it's been basing off of for the past about year and a half now. So, does that provide a bit of a tailwind for Bitcoin? Probably yes. And in the event that we do see, a black swan, if you will, like a World War III, similar to what we saw in the Rona dump, that initial move will be down. As with Bitcoin, it will be down. But after that, and talks already kind of starting with this, interest rate cuts are likely coming. And so, the real skill is going to be finding where is that next major low, because from there it's likely up only for at least another, year or two. So something to be, considerate of. There's something else that I wanted to point out here too, but I'm having trouble finding it on my notes. My notes, where are my notes? Anyways, oh yes. Okay. So More tactically, in the short term here, I did want to point out that the 5-day setup did fail. Obviously, Bitcoin did close below the 5 exponential here. This one does have a 50% strike rate, actually pretty much to the T now. And well, the last 1, 2, 3 trades were wins. So this one being a failure, not super crazy. This one did lose from entry to exit, yeah, about 7%, which is, I think, right in alignment with the performance summary or the expected average losing trade. Yeah, 7%, right on the fucking dot. So what I would be saying is that on this next potential major low, what we'd be expecting to see, like if I'm going to kind of draw out like a playbook here, basically, is that one, Bitcoin probably does continue further down to open up next week. I mean, it's one of those weekends. It's like a great example of market psychology. All these headlines are coming out during this weekend. A lot of fears, a lot of talk of like major crashes, this and that. Probably leads towards new lows on Monday, and then maybe late Monday or Tuesday, also known as turnaround Tuesday, we do see potentially a low. Will it be as painless as that? I don't know, but that could definitely be one route. But anyways, as I was getting back to the point I was trying to make just completely fucking evaporated from my mind. I apologize about that. Yes. Okay. That's it. Okay. So what would we expect to see? If this is going to work out in the bull's favor, meaning that it is going to be a major opportunity. One, likely further continuation to the downside, probably finding a low somewhere in this pocket right here, where the large lines are, actually probably between the 618 and the 786, in fact, now that I recognize it. And then from there, the next objective thing that I'd be looking for to kind of confirm that this is likely to have a big move to the upside is I want to see this 5-day setup over here. Again, a very simple one, just fire off again. And if it does, those have been on average 50% moves, which would be pretty fucking powerful. 50% moves to the upside. In the event of downside, 7%, which again, this one, funnily enough, like literally hit to the T. And that is why it's very, at least in my opinion, important to understand these statistics with any strategy, because you have an edge on both sides, really, especially with a strategy that has a 50% strike rate. It's like, you either go up by this much on average or you go down by this much on average. So your bias on top of that can really play into it. And you can actually, create strategies for both sides, which is, which is one of the nice things. Anyways, so yes. Of course, as of right now, the 5 exponential on the 5-day is at $63,000, and we just but Bitcoin just closed one last night, so it's not going to be updating anytime soon. But if you see that happen next week, Bitcoin pops down, then closes back up above that pivot, or maybe it takes a few periods to happen as well. That would be the sort of route that I'd be looking for if this is indeed going to be the next major opportunity, probably the biggest opportunity for the next half year to a year. I mean, the biggest opportunity after this one's probably gonna be just judging the high. My general disposition is that the market cycle does continue from here to the upside without printing new lows, and we actually don't see this market cycle go much further than the end of this year, maybe Q1 of 2025. But I do think that I'm really starting to lean into that idea that we were speaking about as far back as May now, that this market cycle is going to be short. I don't know if it's going to be short. It depends on how you kind of define that, I guess. But I just don't think that it goes past 2025 Q1 at most. I think if and when Bitcoin does break its current all-time high, you're looking at 4 to 6 months from that time, and that's probably going to be it. So yeah, what does this mean for altcoins? Who the fuck knows? Most of them are going to shitcoin hell, and that's just the way that things are. Don't kill the messenger. But of course, your favorite one, which has great fundamentals, is going to do fine, just like all of the great ones with fundamentals from past cycles as well, like Cardano or Arweave or whatever else I was told this week that is the second coming of the Bitcoins, and we should not discount it. Yes, indeed. All right. Anyways, that's going to do it for today. As always, I want to wish you the best of the best. I do have one little thing for you at the end of this video. It's very important. This one's very important. So let's just bring it up into the view right here. And we must listen to our African compatriots in this very compelling interview.
We bring in the studio this morning one of the gay rights activists, Mr. Should I call you Mr.? Pepe Julian Onzima. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for
Good morning.
Morning to you.
Why are you gay?